Hi, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. I'm here with Rob Henderson, and we are here to talk about White Lotus Season 2, episodes 1 through 4. That's all the episodes that have been so far. So, Rob, we did Season 1 a year or so ago, or maybe 2 years ago. Who knows? What do you think of this season
What
so
we
far?
saw last year, it was last summer. I remember it was. I mean, last summer it was fitting because the show took place during the summer, right when the cast was on vacation, the characters in the show. This one feels a little
Uh-huh.
weird because now it's winter. I mean, it's definitely winter over here in Cambridge, England. So it feels like something's off about like watching a show about people vacationing in the summertime in Italy when it's November. But um, I
Isn't it
think
always
the
warm in
news.
Italy? What if you go to what? It could be winter in their universe too. It's Sicily, right? It's always
I don't.
warm, isn't it?
I don't. Is it? Is it? Well, I think there is like. I mean, who's vacationing in Italy in November, right? Like, I think it's meant to be like summertime, that kind of vibe anyway.
I'm in California. I mean, and I'm used to it being I'm used to it being 70 degrees in winter. So it's not that strange to me.
Yeah, I don't know. I assume that like this is like a summertime kind of TV series of like people on vacation. That yeah, I
People can take
mean,
vacations during Christmas. I mean, these are wealthy people. A lot of them are wealthy. So
he's
what's that fat
that's
woman's
that's
name?
true.
Isn't she supposed to be like a billionaire, an heiress of some kind? And then the tech bro,
Tanya.
yeah, and then the tech bro, he supposedly, those guys apparently cashed out. And so it doesn't seem like it was like a summer vacation for them. It seems like they just cashed out somehow. Or the
I mean,
Ethan,
I don't know what because now I'm thinking the first season takes place in Hawaii, and
yeah,
I would
yeah,
imagine
that's the
probably Hawaii
point.
is also nice all year round. So for
Yeah,
some reason, yeah, maybe just because it came out in the summer last year, that this felt like a summer
yeah,
show.
yeah. I
Um,
never had that.
yeah, that was the feeling I had, but the show itself seems fine. Season two, yeah, I think it's good. I think it lives up to the first season. It doesn't have the at least so far 4 episodes in. It doesn't have the sophomore slump. It doesn't have the curse of trying to be bigger and better than what it was before, or no so far no signs of flagging. So what did you think?
So first few episodes, I was really excited. Um, I thought that the characters were compelling. I love this woman, Audrey. Is her name? What's her name? The Ethan's wife, the neurotic one. What's her name?
Ethan's wife. Well, so her real name is Aubrey Plaza, but in the show
Oh,
she's
okay.
Harper.
Harper.
Harper is
That's
her
right. Yeah,
name.
obviously.
Yes,
Yeah, the actor's name. Yeah, Harper. So she's beautiful. Who do you think is prettier, the finance bro's wife or Ethan's wife, Daphne or Harper?
Daphne. So Daphne is Cameron's wife, right? The other couple that they're vacationing
Yeah,
with. Daphne or Harper. I mean, I liked. Maybe this is me showing some somewhat like ageism slash misogyny something. But I remember I really liked Aubrey Plaza. I thought she was really pretty in Parks and Rec. But that was that show's like 10 years old. So
uh,
she's showing signs of age. So I think now I would have to say Daphne or whatever the actress's name is, but Daphne in the show I think is actually more attractive now
huh.
than Harper's
Wow, Aubrey
character.
Plaza is 38. See, I don't have an earlier. I never watched Parks and Rec, so I don't have an earlier version to compare to.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I
So
thought
she's
I would have thought she was.
38. So 10 years ago she was 28. Yeah. Okay. I mean that's like roughly it's a little younger. But yeah. Okay. That makes sense. So she was. Yeah. I liked her a lot in that show, and yeah, I mean, I like her as an actress. I think she's doing like acting wise. I think she's among the
Yeah,
the the four the four people who comprise those two couples. She's definitely the most interesting of those four.
yeah, yeah. And so I thought she was very compelling. I thought the characters were interesting. These three generations of Italian men. The last few episodes, though, I think it's become too similar to season one. It has this storyline. So when they all go to the Godfather thing, and then like there's this young wokester who's like talking to the adults and like lecturing them, right? And so we had this with those two mean girls last season. And this season we have what's the young guy's name from Stanford? Um,
LB,
here's Alfie or whatever. Yeah, Alfie.
LB,
And he
LB
has that
with
scene with the
an
Godfather. He's like, oh,
LB.
the Godfather. Alfie.
Albie with a B. I
Albie.
think it's
Okay.
short for maybe short for Al. Oh, no, I think it is. It's short for Albert because the grandfather's name is Bert. So
Uh-huh.
Albie, yeah, Albie from well, he went to college nearby San Francisco, and then he wants them to ask, oh, where, and then he says Stanford.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so like, and you had him with that one scene in The Godfather. He's like, "Oh, The Godfather. I took a class at Stanford, and oh, that was patriarchy, and men used violence, and their women didn't ask which was." And then the grandpa's like, "Now we used to respect elders. Now we're so embarrassing." It reminded me of that scene in the first season where the father is like, "When did I become the bad guy, the white male? Do you remember this?"
I
It is just so
remember, yeah.
it's just like the exact
Well,
same thing. It's like
I
it's
thought that I thought what the grandfather said, Bert, was more interesting in that he actually the exact quote was something like, "We used to honor the elderly, and now we shun them because they remind us of an ugly past."
yeah,
And I
that's
thought
the same thing. It's an
that was
old
more
person.
interesting. That was more
Yeah,
interesting
but
though than what
it's
the dopey dad. Like, like the dad last season was, I don't know. He wasn't nothing he said to me was particularly profound. Maybe because Bert
uh,
isn't like actually a member of the older generation, but he's also, he himself is like not an impressive man, right? Like the show implies that he was very, he was unfaithful to his wife, and he's kind of like telling his son, the Dominic, the Michael Imperioli character, like, hey, you cheated, whatever, apologize, what's the big deal, like, so he's not like a great character, but at least that line was interesting, more interesting than last season. I agree though
and
that
when
like the themes are similar, right? Like the sort of like the general vibe and the theme. Well, I remember last year we talked about Andrew Sullivan's article about how, like this show the
yeah,
indicates like wokeness is waning. Do you think that this second season is also like sort of in line with that idea of wokeness on the decline?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's like it's the same. I mean, it's just it's. I feel like it represents the anti wokeness becoming stale. So, like, so, when you start like being anti woke, you sort of get into all these things, and then to me, it gets very old. So I'm just like sort of sick of like anti wokeness. I'm sick of like critiques of wokeness, just in like articles and stuff. And to me, the fact that this is like so similar shows like, okay, you can critique it. You can critique it once, but if you make focusing on it too, I wish they would have. Yeah, I don't know. It's not so much that it's overwhelming. Like there's not much of it what I see as the main storyline, which I don't know if it's the main storyline. It's the the tech bros, whatever in the other storyline at least. But in other ways, it's also similar too in that the okay, so you have Tanya again, like with her problems, but then you have the hotel manager, and in the first season, it was like this neurotic guy who was gay. This season, it appears that you see the lesbianism coming out. You see
Oh yeah,
what's the hotel what's the
Valentina.
manager? Valentina, yes. So she seems to have a crush on Isabella, and it's like her employee, and she's like trying to hit on her. And it's also the same. I mean, we had that just with a male version
Yeah,
in
but that's
season one.
I think there are still interesting twists. I mean, Armand
But
in season one, like you can like it depicts the sort of it's sort of like revealed the difference between like gay male versus lesbian culture, where like, Armand, when he's trying to seduce his employee, is like, I'll give you whatever shifts you want, and then like smash cut to him like literally eating the kid's ass. And then like
yeah,
this season with Valentina and Isabella, she like buys her like some, I don't know, what is it, like a little piece of jewelry or something, I don't know whatever they
yeah.
call those things, and like pins it on her shirt and is like being very sweet and polite to her. I was like, yeah, this is, I mean, it's an honest portrayal, I think, of like how men versus women think. But I mean, is there like how much flexibility is there to, I don't know, to have different themes or depict different kinds of characters and plots within the universe of White Lotus, where it's
Well,
like,
I
rich
thought
people on vacation.
Yeah. Well, I thought in the first. I mean, I thought that. Yeah. I mean, but I think you. I mean, you can do it. Did you ever see a show on HBO which is really good? It's even more restricted than this, called Room 104.
I've never seen it.
Okay, so it's every single episode. It's like a half-hour show. I don't know if it got canceled or it's still on, but every single episode was just within a motel room, Room 104, and it would not be, you would not leave the motel room. It would just be somebody would come in the motel room and stuff would happen, and it never got repetitive. I saw dozens of episodes, right? And so there's a lot you can do with a very restricted range. Like I thought the first episode would be more about, and it's still going to be about this, more about aging. Like he tries to flirt with Isabella, the grandfather Bert. He farts. They're embarrassed by him, right? So this could be a different thing than like the woke thing, right? Where it could be just like age, and it's like it was actually going in an interesting direction because they're so disgusted with him. Like, oh, I could still get her. He's like, oh, I could still get erections, and they're like, ew, and they're just like, sort of denigrating the elderly, which is like a thing that we do. And then the woke is like its own thing, which is just like sort of a repeat of last season, and it's sort of intertwined with this. So yeah, I do think there are, the human experiences are infinite. Like the Cameron Ethan, tech guys, the sort of the alpha in the relationship, and the guy who's a little bit more passive, and their two kinds of wives. I think that's something new that I don't think has a direct analog to last season. So I do think that
That's true.
you could, I do
Yeah,
think you can be
well, I
creative.
don't see a lot of like. I mean, yeah, I don't like the wokeness to me is. I mean, it was definitely much more prominent last season, probably because like it was just that was like sort of in vogue, more so in vogue last year over the last couple of years. This one, I think it's a bit more subtle, and it's mostly just the Albie character who's woke, right? Like
Yeah.
like even the other Gen Z character, Portia, right? Tanya's assistant, the one who
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
has like his crush on. Even she's like not really. Like she doesn't really
Yeah.
show any signs of. I mean, she even like. I mean, I guess the one thing she
Yeah.
said, which was kind of funny, was when she's explaining to Tanya why she wants to hang out with Albie, is like, he went to Stanford and he's not
Yeah. Yeah.
non-binary, which was
Yeah.
so she knows the lingo of wokeness, but she's like not into it really. So I
Yeah.
think Albie, but it's interesting because Albie is like he's probably the most like morally righteous character of all of the others, of the
Yeah.
cast on the show, but he's also, at least he tries to be woke. My guess is though, with the Albie character, by the end of the season, he's either going to be dead or not woke. So,
Maybe if it's
yeah,
better not work. Well,
yeah,
yeah, this is. I mean, this is interesting. So, yeah, his failures with Portia. First of all, Portia is not is not very attractive. I mean, I think that he's like, if he wasn't such a beta, like his market value would be, I think, higher than hers. But the fact that he is such a woke beta, I think, like reduces him to like following her around. And so yeah, he's got this so what they're doing here, this is also, this is anti woke without being too explicit about it. This is sort of like another thing, like women do not like men who are just wimps, who are like feminists. It's like, oh,
subservient,
can I
yeah,
kiss you? Oh, is it okay? I just don't want to ever make you feel uncomfortable. And he just blows it.
can
And
I come?
this can can I come?
He asks,
Was that,
that.
oh,
You
that
don't remember that?
prostitute? Yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah. With
prostitute.
Lucia,
Yeah,
who
I
I'm,
didn't want.
yeah, I find great. Yeah.
I didn't like the fact that Albie. I didn't like the fact that Albie got lucky in the end. I don't think he deserves it. I think he should steal it. He should
Uh,
reflect on how much he sucks for a while. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, and then this British guy who's just like, who just these British guys who just talk in like, these English guys who just talk in like, you can't even understand what they're saying. But he just, comes up and he just, swoops her off her feet just because he's, muscular and aggressive. And he says, you come to my room, just very explicit. And yeah, this is a lesson. I mean, this is, I think, realistic sort of portrayal of how these. I don't know. I really hate Albie. So I liked when he
Yeah.
went up to the thing and he's like, I'm saving a seat for you. It's right there. I thought it was a little much. I don't know if like a guy would be that unself-aware, but yeah, I think guys often are that unself-aware. So
Yeah, and he's young too. I mean, it's not clear exactly how old he is, but he's like not that far out of. I mean, he's still talking about where he went to college, indicating like that's like his one thing that he can boast about to girls and to people, right? So he's probably like 24 or something. So like, yeah, he's probably a little unsure of himself, still trying to like figure out who he is and like build some confidence. And he's been to some extent indoctrinated with political correctness, and so yeah, that makes like he needed like asking every step of the way whether he
Yeah.
can kiss her, whether he can, and then like Portia clearly like wants to invite him in or ask him to invite her to the room when they first start, like the first night when they had dinner together, and she basically like tells him what kind of guy she's in. Like everything about Portia makes perfect sense, and Albie's like refusing to see it too, right? When they have dinner together, uh, Albie says like, he's a nice guy. He's not always so whatever, like attracted to girls or attractive to girls. And then Portia basically says she wants a guy who's like, basically like not particularly politically aware, who like doesn't know what's going on, who's just like, kind of dibbed. And Albie says like, so you want a caveman?
Mhm.
And Portia was like, yeah, basically. And you
Uh,
hear her on her phone with her friend in a different episode say she wanted to get thrown around by some hot Italian guy. And so like, yeah, I mean, it's nice. It's refreshing, I think, to have a show that's just like very honest about like what happens to guys when they listen too closely, too carefully to politically trendy ideas
yeah.
versus what like young women actually prefer. Um, yeah, so she goes and
Yeah.
hooks up with this British guy. And
Yeah.
well, I found it really interesting the scene where they're at the bar and Portia is sitting with Jack. Jack's the British guy's name. His name is Jack. So they're like kind of flirty with each other, and then across the bar, Albie's hanging out with Lucia, who's like, yeah, I agree with you. That was like he got a little too lucky there, but the show needed that to happen, I guess, to make it interesting. And like Portia is like clearly attracted to Jack, but like feels bad that she suddenly rejected Albie, and you know Jack basically invites her to do what she wanted to do all along, which was to like kiss him and to go off to his room. Um, and yeah, Lucia on the other side is like, don't let them win, like don't let them get to you, and starts kissing Albie. And yeah, the whole dynamic between them, I mean, it was, yeah, just like a very honest portrayal of what happens. And I'm not sure I've seen like many other recent shows anyway that have been so honest about this,
Well, have
especially
you
like
seen
post Me
Girls?
Too era. um yeah, but Girls is kind of old now, especially the earlier seasons, right? Like that's like
Yeah.
pre Me Too
Yeah,
era.
that was brutally honest. I think Ross Douthat once said that Lena Dunham was like a conservative performance artist. Like he thought that like the show was like the most right wing show on TV, despite her liberal, her sort of sort of her liberal politics. But
I never
yeah,
saw the full series of Girls. I only watched like the first 2 or 3 seasons, and I remember I thought it was interesting. But yeah, maybe I'll have to revisit it sometime. Um,
yeah. So
but
I don't
that
know.
was
I don't know. Have they been realistic in recent? I haven't watched like. There's not a lot of shows I watch to portray young people courtship. I don't know like what's been on TV since Girls really. Um, but yeah, I like so I think the Ethan and Cameron thing I think is the most interesting. Um, and I like the way that I like the one reason I like the Harper character is that it's the way that sort of her politics is integrated into her story is very sort of it's subtle and it's sort of underneath. It's not like she's going there and she's like lecturing like, oh, you're a white male, like the way that Albie does with his grandparents. It's more like she just has a general attitude towards life. She's, as our friend Zach shows, she's one of these neurotic liberal white women, right? Who is just always angry, always,
in
unhappy,
passing.
always thinking that, like, always like, she's saying it's like the world that's making her miserable, but she's miserable for her own reasons. And then, like the books we talked about, the books they read last season. So one book she was reading. Did you see which book she was reading?
I did not.
It was something like it was I forgot the title, but it was like the story of like Trump's border separation and
Oh,
policy,
right.
and
Mm.
the and sort of the children who got lost or something. Um, and yeah, so there's that. She's like, oh, it's like how who can have kids with all that's going on, and they're
Everything
like,
that's going on in the
yeah, they're
world.
like,
Yeah.
what? She's like, everything, everything is good.
Yeah, she judges them, right? She judges Cameron and Daphne for like, they say that they don't watch the news, and then later Harper and Ethan, she says like, what do they do? Like if they're not watching the news and like keeping up with what's going on, what do they? Yeah, so that's, yeah, she is like, yeah, one of these neurotic Well, I mean, yeah, like
And she's a civil
she.
rights lawyer too.
Oh, right. Well, okay. So she and Ethan were talking like privately in their bedroom after their, I think their first or their second interaction or scene with Cameron and Daphne, and Ethan basically like implies that Daphne and Cameron are conservatives, or at least like, non woke liberals or something, when he says, Harper's going off about how, oh, they don't keep up with the news and they're having kids and this and that, and then Ethan's like, isn't it nice to have some diverse friends? And it is kind of interesting word to use for like two rich white people. Like, so they're white couple friends. Like, yeah, they're have some diverse friends, and I think it was meant to imply like politically diverse. And then Harper
Or
replies,
apolitical is the kind of
apolitical,
diversity.
yeah. Which is like, yeah. So apolitical, yeah, I guess that. And so then Harper replies, I think we're their diverse friends. We're their like white passing friends. And so Harper has like her own. I've seen this happen. So my guess is that Harper is intended to be half. I think she is like half Puerto Rican, right? At least
No, no,
they imply
they
that
say it
she.
explicitly. She said they talk about have a whole scene where they talk about, oh, I have you have family in Puerto Rico. It's like, yeah, so
So
maybe we
she's. I
should
think
visit
she's
Puerto Rico.
half. She's got to be half because her name is Harper, and like no, like I
Yeah,
don't
no,
know.
no, no. They say. I think they say she's half. Yeah,
Yeah. So
and then
so so
Ethan's half Asian.
half
I think.
Asian. Yeah. So, well, I've seen this. Like, so Harper, her like, so reading that book about Trump and the border separation, and her like being like politically aware, being a civil rights lawyer, like she fits very much into like this kind of archetype of like someone who feels like they have like a weird guilt complex about like being an ethnic minority but having no connection with it, and like trying to overcompensate with their politics. And at least that's like the kind of vibe, like, because I saw this a lot. I've seen this a lot among like graduates of elite universities who have like a very whitewashed like name and vibe and appearance, but then they like very much play it up. I mean, this is like a running joke about like how a lot of the like black and Hispanic activists are actually like very fair skinned and
Mm,
like for like
yeah,
kind of play up their ethnic minority status. And I think like Harper fits that pretty well. Ethan just seems like he's not particularly happy. I'm not really sure what the deal is. I mean, he and Harper, I don't think they've been shown having sex at all on this vacation,
yeah,
whereas
that's
Daphne
right.
and
Yeah, yeah.
Cameron
She's
have
trying to
stuff.
seduce him, and he's like not interested. Right? He's going out on his jog, and
And then
he's
he
coming
watches
back.
porn. He comes back from his jog and watches porn, and you see, yeah, Cameron and Daphne hook up. They have sex, and then Cameron hooks up with the prostitutes, and Ethan, something's going on with him where he doesn't seem that interested in Harper. And yeah, what do you
Yeah,
think's going on with Ethan? Why isn't he interested in Harper? And when she tries to seduce him and
yeah,
watches
yeah. This is. I mean, this is.
porn,
Yeah, this is.
he's
This is
not
one
gay,
of the.
because the porn scene he was watching on his computer, that was straight porn. So
No.
he's not gay. Something else is
Yeah, I mean they've
happening.
had sex before, I assume. They're married. He tries to give a reason like, oh, in the morning I wake up in the morning and she likes the nighttime, and then she wakes up. She waits for him after his jog, and then he's like, hey, what are you doing? So, yeah, it's interesting, right? And so this is one of the more interesting storylines. I think she's just like she's not a. I mean, her personality's awful. Like, and I feel for her because she seems to be trying. She seems to be trying. Like, she wants to be fun and outgoing and like personable. She tries to, be sexy for him when he comes home, and to have some kind of forced spontaneity in their love life. But it's not her. She still like needs to like, it's not like something she could just turn off. Like her being a neurotic liberal white woman is just very deeply entwined in her character. And maybe she could change, but it's like, I like this character because she wants to change. Like, she sees there's something. She's critical of others, but she also senses very deeply that there's something wrong with her and sort of everything about her, and that,
Hmm.
there's something, she's trying to change it, like, very consciously.
Yeah. Well, she tries to change it initially, I think, just because she wants Ethan's approval. She clearly cares about Ethan, and like she calls him, like remember like the I think it was the latest or the latest episode where Daphne basically like reveals like Cameron is cheating and like they're not particularly as happy as they look. And Harper likes Ethan, right? She clearly is has great affection for him. She calls him on the phone and was like, gossiping and telling him everything. And so she wants them to have that kind of relationship. Ethan seems very distant. And yeah, so there's something going on with Ethan's, maybe it is because of Harper and
Well,
just being like a
maybe
kind of
Ethan just
unpleasant
got.
person.
Well, Ethan just got rich, right? Maybe that's the story that he just sell his company or something, and maybe
Yeah.
men get rich and then they lose interest in the wives that they had before they
Yeah,
were rich.
but
I
then he's
wonder if
not.
she's older because Ethan. I think is supposed to be younger than her. I don't know. Like I didn't assume Harper was 38, but let's say she's 38 in the show. And maybe
Yeah.
this was like a compromise. He had to marry because he was sort of a beta. He's not a very he's like very in shape and very good looking, but not a sort of outgoing kind of guy. And so maybe like his compromise was he had to marry a woman who was pretty but past her prime.
Yeah.
And now he's
Yeah, yeah.
he's in a much better market position, and he obviously just doesn't want to dump her right away. He doesn't want to cheat on her. He resists
Yeah, yeah. I was
temptation.
gonna say he doesn't
Yeah,
pursue anything
yeah,
with Lucia and
yeah.
Mia, I think.
He's not
So
consciously trying to.
he's not, yeah, but maybe some part of him is withdrawing his interest. Um yeah, well, one thing I don't really like about this show is it falls into this trope of like the happy couple is actually secretly unhappy and the unhappy couple is actually like better than the happy couple. And so like from the first episode, the first two episodes, Daphne and Cameron actually do appear to have like this storybook perfect family and relationship where like Harper and Ethan are overhearing them laugh and have fun, and he's like tickling Daphne, Cameron's tickling Daphne, and they're having sex, and they're just having like a very like a wholesome romantic marriage. And they have kids, and it just seems like they're okay with each other. And then Daphne is like, or not, Harper is just very suspicious, right? Like, this is performative, it's a front. Like, she says this multiple times, like something's going on, there's this can't be possibly real. And at first I was like, where are they going with this? Like, it would be very interesting if actually like Harper is just so cynical that she can't accept that people can be happy like this because she's so preoccupied with politics and the news of the day and the political sound bites. But no, like they actually do show this where the seemingly happy couple, they can't possibly really. This is like a trope as old as like at least as old as American Beauty, where oh, they seem happy, this family, but actually the wife is she's a long suffering housewife who's putting up with her cheating husband, who's actually like not that caring, and they play these games with each other. Whereas I guess Harper and Ethan are not actually super happy, right? Because Ethan's because they're not having sex, and now Harper suspects something is going on with the rapper that she
Yeah.
found.
Although yeah, that's that's interesting. I don't think actually. Um, But I think it's too simplistic to say that their relationship is fake. I mean, when they are tickling each other and when they're having sex, they really are happy. And you want to compare relationships. I mean, they're able to be intimate with each other, while Ethan and Harper, have problems with that. Um, and it seems like they've made some compromises. It seems like the Daphne is, Cameron just seems, he's on top of the world. I mean, it doesn't seem like he's unhappy in any way. He's just cheating on his wife, and he's enjoying himself. Daphne, you could say maybe she seems unhappy. She still seems happier than Harper. It's sort of like her life is like good, but there's like some dark clouds like within, like anyone's life. It's like it's like not perfect. It's like it's good. You're happy most of the time, but there is like some aspect of your relationship or some aspect of your life that is dark, and you don't like to think about it. And if you dwell on it, you become unhappy. So it's complex. It's not like Harper is completely right about them. I don't think. Um, you
I
know,
think
it,
that's an accurate interpretation. I think, like realistically, but I think the show like it kind of vindicates Harper's view, right? Like it's like, oh, Harper's had these suspicions all along, and then Daphne,
well, I mean, it ended up being
reveals,
part. I mean, it ended up being partly true, but I don't think like the show is showing us that it's like anywhere near completely true. I mean, they still have a real relationship, and they still care about each other. And I think Daphne's happy. I mean, I don't think she's sad. I mean, I think
Well,
they
I
enjoy
agree
each other's
she's
company.
probably happier than Harper, but it did it did take this position of like, yeah, they're not as happy as they appear to be, and yeah, they were playing those games with each other where Daphne wanted to take Harper and go spend the night somewhere, and then in response, Cameron gets perturbed and cheats, and so
There is a more right wing interpretation of all of this. It's like men should cheat and they should just hide it from their wives.
is
And
this
like,
right? Is this right wing? I thought conservatives were
I
are they
mean,
not faithful?
yeah, that's the
Conventional
cool.
marriage.
No, I
Or
mean,
is this Catholic versus
I
Nietzschean?
I didn't
Right.
say conservative. I said right wing. You have this pole. You have this like right left. You have secular, and you have sort of Darwin. Some people call it pagan. You Nietzschean, and then you
The,
have
the
Christian. Right. So
the
this there
Christian
could be
versus Nietzschean, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
there
Okay.
could be a right wing Nietzschean interpretation, which is like, look, Bert, wife, he was happy with like, she died. He was sad when his wife died. They had a relationship and they had kids and they lived a full life. Cameron, his wife is lucky. She has children. She gets to spend money on whatever she wants. He cheats he sometimes takes liberties with prostitutes when she's away. This guy, Mike, who's the Mike Imperial? What's his name? The character?
Dominic.
Dominic. So he's like, I don't know. He's like trying. He's like in the halfway house. So you have Bert, who's like, completely like doesn't care, loves the Godfather, doesn't take women seriously. You have Albie, who's just like beta, who's just like, oh, can I kiss you? And then you have Dominic, who like cheats on his wife, but then it like is like,
Feels
sort
guilty
of
about it.
guilty about it. I mean, doesn't he gets caught and things get bad, and it's like
The happiest one is Bert.
if you're going to rank their happiness, the happiness was Bert, and then like he gets. I think Dominic is probably in second place, and then probably Albie is probably maybe I don't know if Dominic or Albie. I mean, they're both they're neck and neck for being
Albie's
unhappy.
young too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I don't know if that's like maybe I don't know if that's the right because there is that scene where Dominic is on the phone with his wife and she's just like screaming at him and he keeps like trying and apparently this has happened before at least like the conversations that Dominic has with his son Albie where like apparently this has been like a repeated pattern in their family where Dominic cheats and then the wife gets mad and eventually forgives him but it sounds like this time because she was supposed to go on the trip with them is my understanding she has so Dominic's wife and his daughter were both supposed to go but both of them after his latest romantic indiscretion decided not to go and so Dominic is clearly like unhappy and trying to find his way out of this um yeah, I don't know. I guess the show could have this maybe because in the very first episode when Lucia and Mia, the two prostitutes, see the families arriving, uh, they say I think it was one of them said oh look like some of them have brought their wives and the other prostitute is like oh men are so disappointing right like bringing their wives like they shouldn't be doing this it was meant to like a tongue-in-cheek remark but perhaps perhaps if it could also be interpreted as like maybe that's what keeps keeps relationships going is these
yeah. Prostitutes. Ethan doesn't have
indiscretions
prostitutes.
without anyone
Ethan doesn't
knowing
have
I think
Yeah, Ethan doesn't have
that's the key.
prostitutes, and he can't even have sex with his wife. He's just retreated into porn. If he was, got some variety. I mean, I think there's, if you're looking at sort of like who's happy and who's living a more, sort of,
The guys who cheat are happier, which is actually, yeah. Well, maybe the women are not. Well, Harper's not happy either, but that's because she's not
yeah,
actually having sex with her husband. Or is he? Are Ethan and Harper? They're married,
I
or are
believe
they
so. Yeah,
just dating or in
I
a
I
committed
believe they're
relationship?
married. Yeah, I believe
Interesting.
they're married. Um,
Okay. All
but
right.
I'm
Okay.
not
Yeah, but
sure. I mean, the
that's an
other two are
interesting point,
married.
though. The happiest men in the show, definitely among the men, Bert, the unapologetic cheater, and Cameron, who's like also pretty unapologetic. They're the happiest,
Yeah,
and then you have
yeah.
Dominic, Albie, and
Well, in the Godfather
and Ethan.
discussion, Dominic says this. Albie's like, "You were taught to like want these things." He's like, "No, they make these movies and men like them because that's the way men are." Right? It's made very uh, explicit there. And I think that Cameron even has like talks a little like this. I forget exactly what he said. But something about men being naturally inclined during that night when him and Ethan were out drinking. Um, and yeah, the people who are, yeah, like even if you think back to last season, the father who's, was like, oh, I'm a white male. He doesn't cheat, but he's like emasculated. He is like, I mean, that guy, I felt bad for that guy. Um, and I'm trying to think of the other characters. Yeah, that other guy, the douchey Cornell guy. Um,
Yeah.
I forget what happened season at the end of season one, but spoilers for anyone. Rob, remind me, did the douchey Cornell guy, did the wife stayed with him or not?
I think she did. Yeah, yeah. I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure she stayed with him. I think she was going to dump him, but then last minute decided to
yeah.
stay.
Yeah, and I think this
Yeah.
is also sort of a, yeah. I think it's interesting. Yeah, that was so interesting because you thought it was leading up to her
There's
dumping him.
no. There,
Uh,
I was worried that that Cameron was going to be like a clone of the douchey Cornell. I think his name was Tom. Could be getting that wrong, but like basically just like that character again. But no, it's nice to see that like okay, they superficially may look similar, but actually they are different characters.
Yeah,
And yeah,
Cameron's a
there's no like
successful investor, right? I mean, this douchey guy, I think, didn't do anything. He was just sort of, he had
yeah.
rich parents,
There's
and
no there's
he,
no like douchey white guy to hate on in this. Like there's no one who's overtly is there? Like are there any like that character in last season, right? Like like there's not much to like about him. This season, I don't think there's anyone like that where like, that you're intended to detest them in some way. I think they're
I think
all
you're
to some
supposed to.
extent sympathetic.
I think you're supposed to dislike. I don't know. Maybe Cameron. I mean, I don't know if you're supposed to. He's got more.
Uh,
Like, well,
uh.
in the Nietzschean sense, he's good. If in the non-Nietzschean sense, like, what is good about him? He cheats on his wife. He's, he doesn't care about society.
Isn't
He's
he,
just,
isn't he like a
selfish.
relatively loving husband, right? He takes care of his kids. It sounds like, I don't know. They,
Yeah,
they they managed to make it work. They appear to be happier anyway than Ethan and Harper. Yeah,
yeah.
I don't know. I don't feel like I didn't hate him. Well, one thing I didn't like was that he was like trying to like push Ethan into cheating, which was like, morally
Yeah,
fraught. But I mean I don't know I don't feel like the same level of negativity toward him as I did
it's
towards
because you're a
the
Nietzschean.
character last
You
season.
dislike the other guy because he's not successful or like cool, and you like this guy more. But I think to Christian morality, I think this guy is worse because the other guy didn't cheat, like as far as we know. Oh, by the way, the other thing where it makes explicit uh, Bert tells Dominic, it's not the cheating, it's being sloppy and getting caught. I mean, he says this explicitly, right? It's like showing your disrespect to her by getting caught doing it. So this is like sort of like maybe it's like it's like that scene where the show tells you like what it's about, right? There's often something like this in the I love the I love this. I don't know. I think we probably talked about this about The Sopranos when ironically Mike Imperioli was be talking to Paulie, and when like Chris was he was trying to talking about character's arc. He's like, what's my arc? And then Paulie gives this big speech like, this is not the movies. I was born, I'm here, and I died. There's no arc. And you think
Yeah, yeah,
that's the Sopranos, right?
yeah,
It's
yeah,
like a speech that just got Sopranos down to its essence. There was no arc. These characters sort of were who they were,
yeah,
and it
yeah.
kept
That's
coming
that's a
out.
good point. Yeah,
And
there
so
was yeah.
and so so that's the lesson of Sopranos. Lesson of this is men should cheat and should be good at it and not get caught. I think.
Is that the lesson? Well, or I mean, well. Okay, so we can get into the sort of the interesting cliffhanger of the most recent episode where so So right, so Daphne and Harper go off on their little girls' trip to stay in some house overnight or some villa, and then Cameron and Ethan go jet skiing. Then they party, they get drunk, and they meet Lucia and Mia, the two very attractive Italian prostitutes who kind of seduce them. And then yeah, Cameron hooks up with both of them. I think. I mean, one thing I didn't like this is HBO, right? Like this is supposed to be like premium adult quality content, and they still do that trick where like it smash cuts kind of to the morning, and Cameron's wearing boxers and both of the prostitutes are wearing lingerie, and it's like, okay, if you had a threesome and like the implication is they had sex all night, like
Hmm.
they're not going to put on their underclothes like right
Hmm.
before so
Maybe.
this is,
Why would
I
it
don't
matter?
know,
Maybe
like
they.
the HBO is capable, right, of showing nudity,
No,
but
why would you put on your
uh,
underwear? Maybe
they
you would.
wouldn't. I don't
You don't
think
want to be
so.
seen naked. Like I think there's like you don't want to be seen naked after the fact.
I don't know. Maybe if he had to like, no, I don't know. This is, I don't know. And that was just like a very kind of like a cliche TV thing of like network TV, right? Or basic cable where you can't show nudity. But it's fine. Like I'll accept it for the sake of the show that like he had sex with them. Ethan is off in the corner somewhere, or he's like in the bathroom smoking a cigarette and like kind of like whatever, like feeling morally whatever, like compromised. But it was very clever. So Cameron, I don't know if this was intentional or not, but I think Cameron, he had them go into Ethan's room on purpose, not, and they didn't do it in Cameron and Daphne's room. And then the next day, Harper discovers a condom wrapper
Hmm.
in their
Mm.
room.
Oh, so wait. Oh, so Cameron directed them away from their own room and went to Ethan's. Oh,
Yeah, yeah. And so that's why Harper found the condom wrapper. And I don't know. So this is like another interesting element of her character, right? Is like I almost found it hard to believe that she wouldn't, because like she seems like a sort of a strident and like full of moral righteousness or something. And so I figured, like, does it make sense for her character to not just like throw this wrapper in Ethan's face and say, what the hell is this, like, tell me what happened last night, be honest, like, I don't lie to me. But instead she like hides the wrapper and is just kind of like slowly pecking away at Ethan for the remainder of the day, kind of stewing in her own anger and her own suspicions. Did it make sense to you that she wouldn't just like confront him immediately?
I mean, yes. What was more confusing for me was Ethan, how clueless. She's like, I'm going to ask you again, what happened? And he's just like, nothing. And like, okay, she's asking you directly like 5 times. Like, obviously she knows something. Like you need to do more than just say nothing. Like he needs to say like Cameron. But I thought where you were going with all this, I thought you were going to think Cameron was setting up Ethan. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think he's kind of setting up Ethan too. So I don't know exactly. Like I still don't have like a good feel yet for Cameron's character, but I think a possibility is that he did that on purpose. He arranged for the prostitute and the little party they had to be in Ethan's room. Intentionally left the wrapper there, hoping that Harper would find it to like basically contaminate their relationship and thereby get Harper to get revenge on Ethan by having sex with Cameron.
Oh,
Um,
that's
because
what
be-
he's saying.
because there are a couple of interesting scenes throughout the show so far where like, okay, so one is when Cameron goes up with Harper into their room and like changes into his swim
Yeah.
trunks, right? And like, with the door like, okay, fine, Harper was in the bathroom but the door was wide open. He like is clearly in her line of vision with the mirror there and changes in front of her. And then there's the scene where Harper goes out into the ocean when they're all hanging out at the beach, and Cameron goes out and swims up and like grabs her foot and is kind of flirty with her and meets up with her and says like, I can tell you don't like me, but whatever, like basically tries to what like have a nice moment with her. So there's like subtle indications that Harper and Ethan have some kind of chemistry. Cameron might maybe interested in her. And
That's, I mean,
so
that's pretty, I
it's
mean, that's a pretty, so I
yeah.
thought it might have something to do with the money. The whole point is he's trying to get Ethan to like invest his money in his thing, right? So that's like, okay. I thought maybe that would be something like when you were talking something like that, but like just to do
How
it,
would
just
that
to be able to,
work? How would that
just
work
to
with the
be,
money?
I don't know. Like I'm trying to
What's the
figure out what his
scheme?
motivation. Maybe it's just like Ethan would be so upset he would just say, "I don't care about money." Take this out of it
Well, I mean, like
all.
if it was about the money, it seems like Cameron would basically like pull Ethan aside and say like, because he did. So there was a moment where Ethan kissed Lucia, I think for like 3 seconds, and then he like basically said no, like he felt too guilty. And so Cameron could have pulled Ethan aside the next day and been like, hey man, like I saw what you did, I saw you kiss that girl, and look, like I'm gonna need you to invest, and we're gonna need to make a deal, otherwise I
No,
may
it
have
wouldn't
to
be
let
that
this
explicit. It
go.
wouldn't be that explicit. It
It
wouldn't be
sure
like,
would be a shame if I,
yeah.
he could have done something like that, or at least, yeah. I mean, Cameron doesn't strike me as a particularly smart guy, though. So both possibilities, whether he's trying to like, strategically get a way to for find a way for Harper to sleep with him, or to like get Ethan to invest in his company, he just doesn't seem like that I mean, I get that he's a
Well, I
successful
mean,
investor, and
yeah, I mean,
yeah,
it would screw up his attempt to get Ethan's money if he had sex with his wife, right? So that could be a problem, unless they don't have a prenup and like she could divorce him and give all the money to, I don't know, give all the money to Cameron. I don't know. It's confusing. It seems like this is yeah, Cameron is a real psychopath. I mean, if this is his plan, what if he brought? I mean, what if he just wanted Harper and he brought her out there? Like this whole thing was like not about the money, which Harper thought it was
yeah.
maybe about that the whole time. That would be
Well,
interesting.
so one thing that I find funny is that so early on when the two couples are at brunch or whatever, and Cameron calls Ethan, like back when we were in college, he was the original incel, and
Yeah.
uh, and you see like Ethan doesn't have sex with his wife, he doesn't, and so um an interesting. I don't think the show will go in this direction, but it would be kind of an interesting twist if all the bodies that washed up in the beach, the very first scene of the show, is Ethan and Albie like both pulling off some kind of like incel terrorist plot, or like Albie takes out Jack and Portia, and then Ethan takes out Harper and Cameron, like the Chads
Oh
and
my
the
god.
Stacys, and like you know what
Oh
I
my
mean?
god.
And
You got a dark
yeah.
mind.
I
That is
don't think that they'll do that. I think instead, probably what's going to happen. So this is my tentative prediction. It's actually unrelated to the couples. The bodies are actually the old gay guys who invited Tanya out to their boat. So we haven't gotten to this part yet, but Greg, right? So Tanya's husband, Greg, the BLM guy from the last season, the Bureau of Land Management. Something's going on with him, right? Like you see him like sneak off into the bathroom, having these whispered phone conversations, and at one point he says like, "Oh no, she's clueless. She doesn't know anything," and you don't know what he's talking about. But then he leaves, right? He's like, "I just got to go away for 2 days." He leaves, and then randomly these like jet setting wealthy gay men invite Tanya out to go party with
yeah.
them, and I wonder if Greg is arranging something with these guys to basically like kill Tanya and take her money, right? Like but instead,
Yeah.
because they're not going to kill Tanya. Like Tanya's too interesting and entertaining of a character. They're not going to, and it would be too dark to kill her. But instead, if like somehow in their attempt to kill Tanya, they all somehow die. I don't know how that's going to happen, but I think those are the people who the bodies are
So
washed
yeah,
up.
Tanya. I mean, at some point they mentioned she's like really wealthy. Someone says she's like a billionaire or something. She like really got a lot of. I think it was something like she was one of the richest or something. So she's supposedly very wealthy. Clearly, this BLM guy is like he doesn't. He's just and then he starts talking about, oh, you made me sign a prenup. And then, like he's sort of implying. So I thought his plan was more simple than killing her.
Oh
Just
yeah, there
get
was a
just get
prenup.
her to
Yeah.
get up to just. It's more simple to get her to tear up the prenup, and then just you could divorce her, right? She's like, I have to go to work because because of this prenup, so I don't know what's gonna happen. So like it seems like that's his plan, but his plan could be, you're right, it could be also to it could have a parallel plan to just kill her, have these gay guys kill her. Because the gay guys, yeah, they did come out of nowhere. Like, you're the most elegant woman, we've ever
Yeah,
seen.
it
Like, do
felt
gay guys
very
do that? Do gay guys
forced.
just find yeah, do gay guys just find old women and like hang out with, like, maybe they do, I don't know.
Well,
But
there
like
was another interesting scene too, where so Portia is out on the boat with Jack, right, the nephew of one of the gay guys, this kind of British guy, this Lothario, and he says like, yeah, it's nice to have someone my age around here because usually all these guys whenever we go out, like they're just inviting old hags, like old wealthy
yeah, you're
hags.
right. What is that? Yeah, what is
It's
that?
like, okay, there's like, is that what they do? Like they like arrange deals to like, to assassinate rich women so that their husbands or family or someone can. I
I
mean,
mean,
this seems
maybe it's simpler.
it doesn't seem
Maybe
that
they
far
somehow,
fetched.
yeah, maybe somehow they befriend her and they convince her to like tear up the prenup or something. They convince her to do something, like to
But
hand over the money.
then, who are the bodies?
Well,
Like
we
who
don't know. Yeah, this
died?
is
It's
the
more than
so,
one, which is interesting, right? Like,
so, so this is the this is the, I mean, so this is another way. Obviously, it's similar to season one. Season one's and starts with someone dying,
I
and I wonder if that's going to be every season, like just somebody dies. Like the White Lotus is just cursed, but yeah, it's okay. I mean, it's okay.
hmm.
Yeah, what is going to happen? I don't know. Like it's hard to predict. Like I don't think you could have predicted season one. Like it was going to be the it was going to be, spoiler alert again, it was going to be the hotel guy, right? It's just like there's
Armand.
nothing. He just happened to go crazy, and and
There was nothing indicating, right? Like you there's like all the way up until the final episode, you like there
you
was
were
almost
supposed
no
to
way
think
to
it was the
predict.
douchebag because the wife is his wife is sitting there like crying, and you think it's her, you think it's him,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, there's no way
Uh,
you could predict that it was Armand. It would be funny if this if this season it was the same analog for each character doing the same like basically Cameron murders Valentina with a knife. Like
uh,
it's just always the douchey white guy killing the hook each time. But no, I don't think that would make sense. I think it's going to be like I don't know how it's going to happen. Like if the police show up and no, but it couldn't be the police who killed them because they're literally like washed up in the ocean. These bodies, was it Daphne who discovers the
yeah,
bodies
yeah.
in episode 1? So it seems so Daphne would be clue like it can't be Cameron then because she
Well, I
would
mean,
know if
he could
Cameron's
have gone somewhere, and yeah, I mean, he could have. I mean, he could have gone
that's
somewhere
plus
and died.
yeah,
Yeah.
possibly. Yeah, I have a feeling it's going to have something to do with Tanya though, but yeah, it's still very it's too early to tell. There's going to be 7 episodes this season. Last season there were only 6.
Oh, there's
So
only okay.
yeah.
So we're approaching the end. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
What do you
So
think?
we'll watch. Yeah, we'll basically we'll do another conversation after these final 3 episodes. But
Yeah.
it's hard to predict for now. Greg seems oh yeah, the other thing. Oh yeah, so this was another interesting possible. So when Greg and Tanya are having sex in their hotel room and Tanya flips out, right? She like suddenly like pushes Greg off and she's like, "Oh my god." And he's like, "What?" And she's like, "I had this vision of men with very effeminate hairstyles." Rambling on about this, and I think that like there have been sort of hints of the supernatural where Tanya goes to the psychic, and the psychic is like saying bad things are going to happen to you, and Tanya like says get out of here, you're being very negative. And then she has that vision when Greg is having sex with her of like gay, like effeminate men with these hairstyles. That's like is she not just talking about like these gay guys on the boat, these rich gay guys who invited her out? I think like she's having these visions. The psychic is also signaling that something is going to happen to her, or something around her bad is about to happen. So this is like another piece of evidence that something's going on with Tanya later in the show, and that's where these murders come in. Um, what's what's going to happen? I think with Albie is that so earlier I said like he's either going to be unwoke or dead, and the reason I said that is because like he's basically going to learn his lesson, right? That like you can't really behave this way and expect to find a girl who's attracted to you, and Portia's basically going to like help him discover or like illuminate this understanding. And maybe he'll be tricked into like like Lucia will trick him into marrying her, bring her back to California, and then she's gonna run
Yeah.
away and
Yeah.
become
She always says,
an
I
actress.
want to be in, yeah, I want
Yeah,
to
always
go, I
wanted
would
to see
love to go to
LA.
Yeah, she says
Yeah,
it to anyone from California. That's right.
I've always wanted to
Uh,
go there. I think she's gonna trick poor little Albie, naive Albie, into marrying her and
yeah.
bringing her back
Yeah,
and
maybe
leaving.
Albie. Okay, here's an
Yeah,
idea. Maybe Albie tries to outcompete the guy, the Jack or whatever his name is. He challenges him to swim a swimming contest, and he drowns.
well,
Ironically, he drowns while trying to prove his manhood, or they both drowned. I don't know. It wasn't just
yeah,
one or two people, right? I thought that at the end when they go to the lady Valentina, is that what her name is?
Valentina.
It's like
Yeah,
they say there's many. Don't they say there's many?
there's many. Yeah, there's
Yeah, there's
many,
not one
and
I saw.
it's gonna be
Yeah, it could be the gay
those
guy. It
rich
could
gay
be
men.
yeah, those rich gay men are all like Tanya's gonna fight them off. They're gonna like try to throw her in the ocean, and she's just gonna like duck and like just push them all off the whatever. Yeah, yeah, it's very
Yeah.
right. Yeah, because the gay guys try to take her to this island with this old Swedish widow. Like it's open to the public. It's like, oh, you should come, right? Yeah. Why is Jack always hanging out with these got old guys who are just with who are just with older women? You're right. There is something
I guess another
very
plot
very
twist would be Jack is the one who saves them somehow, where like Jack falls in love with Portia and knows the plot, right? Like he knows what's going on, but for some reason Portia just wins him over, and he's like, "I can't let them kill you. I can't let them kill Tanya."
No, that
and
wouldn't
like
be
rebels
fun.
against his uncle.
I don't see. Jack
Uh,
doesn't strike me as that kind of guy. He seems like a soccer
It doesn't strike
hooligan
me
who
as that
enjoys.
kind of guy either, but as a plot twist, that's one possibility. Because who else is in, like, I don't know, like the mafia or something? Like who's gonna come in and save Tanya? Unless it's like a freak accident somehow. I don't know. The show can orchestrate something where somehow like Tanya and Portia manage to kill 4 or 5 guys or something at once, just even if it's just by accident. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. That's a
What is
possibility. I
what's
want to
going
know
to
where they
happen with
filmed this
what's going to
though.
happen so they came to Sicily to like see his ancestral village. Did they already do that? Did they finish that? Did they see the ancestral village? I
I
don't think we
thought
got they did the
so.
Godfather thing.
Oh, yeah. I guess they haven't yet. Um, that would be interesting if they visited the ancestral village and like connected with like some kind of distant family members who were connected to La Cosa Nostra, and those are the guys who saved Tanya. Um, that would be a cool twist too. I mean, there's 3 episodes. They pack like a lot of story into a short amount of time. Um, yeah, and there is that Godfather element, Michael Imperioli, right? Like Christopher Moltisanti's in the show, so it would be not totally surprising if they brought in some sort of criminal aspect like that in.
Yeah, I mean this because the mafia was the ones who went after the Swedish video. Yeah, I don't know if I like Michael Imperioli in these older scenes. I don't know. I don't know if he's a very interesting character. I thought he was compelling when he was young and he was Chris. Now I don't know. I just don't think he's very
I remember the
compelling. What do you
first
think?
time. Did you ever watch Californication
Mm-mm.
on Showtime? Yeah, that was the first time I saw Imperioli in a non-Sopranos role, and he had like completely white hair or like gray hair, and I remember I saw that and I was just like shocked. And yeah, I did like it, right? Like I like him as Chris, like the accent, the mannerisms, even the
Yeah,
walk. Yeah, everything about him was just like very well. It was just very studied and very like you could tell that he
all the
prepped for that
Sopranos
role.
characters were like that. This is what made the show so
Yeah,
great. Tony, Paulie, Paulie was like a real mobster apparently.
yeah,
So I mean, these guys were perfect. These guys were right out of Central Casting. Um,
yeah.
the
I mean, he's not really
you're
doing much though, right? Like, I mean, I've seen like if yeah, I know you haven't seen Talking Sopranos, right? The podcast that he did with the Bobby Bacala character. But yeah, he's just like
mm-mm.
a very like when he's not in the Chris role, like he just almost seems to be playing himself. He's just like a very reserved, kind of quiet, thoughtful guy. At least that's my
Yeah.
impression of Imperioli as a just as a person when he's not acting. And like in this show, he's kind of like that too. He's just kind of subdued. Like I guess like the sex addiction and the cheating kind of gives it's like an attempt to make him more interesting. But yeah, he's not the most interesting character even among the three generations, right? Like Bert and Albie in their own way are more interesting to watch than
Yeah. Well,
Dominic.
Albie was reading a book, and I was trying to see what it was, and it just had the back cover, and the back cover was like these big bold letters that didn't make any sense. It was like doctor or something. Like I couldn't make it out. Did you see this when he was reading on the beach when he was waiting for yeah, see, I
No,
always freeze it, and I try to look up
okay.
the books. Yeah, look it up
Albie
for us.
book,
Let's see.
White
'Cause I'm interested.
Lotus. Uh, let's see.
Remember we did this with the books
Yeah,
last year too.
let's see. Okay. White Lotus books are there to be judged by their cover. Okay. So, is this.
Yeah, because somebody's reading Blink. Who was reading
Yeah, they're
Blink?
reading and.
Somebody was
Oh, yeah,
reading Blink and see.
that was the douchey Cornell guy, which
Yeah,
is
the
like, that was
douchey, and
perfect
they were,
for him.
and the woke girls were reading Freud, and what was the other one? It was some other philosopher.
Derrida and yeah, Jacques
Yeah,
Derrida. There was someone else too, like one of these other kind of like post-structuralist philosophers. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything about like what books are in season 2. Um,
books in
yeah,
season 2, White Lotus. Yeah, books on the White Lotus. Hmm.
there's a lot
So
of
here's
stuff
yeah.
on
So
season 1.
here's one from Slate that's about season 2. Appears okay. He's reading. Yeah, well, I found it. The Architect of Closed Worlds. or
Okay.
what is the power of shit? Right. So it was what is the
What?
power of shit is on the back cover. So let's Google what this book is.
Oh no, this sounds so dumb.
Well,
Uh,
that would fit the character. What do outer space capsules, submarines, and office buildings have in common? Each was conceived as a closed system, a self-sustaining physical environment demarcated from its surroundings by a boundary prohibiting the transfer. As a partial, so this is like a
what is this?
trans documents a trans rise of a new environmental. Okay, so it's like it's postmodern, left wing, gibberish by a female professor of architecture at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. Okay, so you
Sounds
get the
legit.
idea. You get the
Okay, yeah, from
you
the space program to countercultural architect groups experimenting with autonomous living. Oh, so this is like is this like how to set up a cult or a commune or like
mm,
what?
I don't think so. I think it's more
Closed worlds? Interesting. A genealogy of self-reliant environments. Oh, okay. Well, this says contemporary discussions about global warming, recycling,
yeah, it's something this
sustainability.
says something this book is something about sustainability.
Okay, that okay, interest. Yeah, that
Yeah,
fits his
speaking
character.
So I think you're supposed to. It's so funny that it's like these guys like you who made this show. I mean, I want to look into the producers, but it's like they love The Godfather, right? You could tell they're just like anti woke, like Generation Xers, right? They're like, oh, love The Godfather, like these wokesters, these young people they don't appreciate it. They just always like about how woke suck, about how wokes like have a bad understanding of relationships and sex. I'm wondering if it's really like Andrew Sullivan or if it's Nietzschean. If it's Nietzschean, I think it's much more interesting. I think that there could be that could be part of it. I think it's
HBO
good.
has been very good lately with right like with Succession, which did you see the did you don't watch previews though, you don't watch trailers, but they just dropped the new
No,
trailer for
I
the
don't
latest
watch
season of
trailers. That's my
Succession.
boss.
Looks really good. But that's like another show that is that you don't have to try too hard to view the show through a more right wing lens, a more sort
Yeah,
of Nietzschean, or at least like whatever you want to call it, non woke, politically neutral, something right, realistic, and some might say.
yeah,
White Lotus is like this too. So in a way, like HBO has been like surprisingly good with this, and of course, like the show will always reference is The Sopranos, which is like the sort of the iconic kind of show like this of like prestige TV that takes
yeah.
a sort of a
Well,
Nietzschean
yeah.
right
What
wing
Steve
stance.
Saylor says, I mean, about Hollywood is like basically the movies are more right wing than you think because they're appealing to human nature. I mean, there's a market there. It's not like a professor of postmodern studies who could just write any garbage and have it
Yeah,
supported by
I've seen Sailor write about like directors and showrunners and like how you almost have to be like instinctively right wing to like to create a project like that kind of
yeah.
vision for like world building and everything.
Yeah,
So
this
yeah,
is sort of Andreessen's point too. Although he says we don't get these Nietzschean shows, but we're arguing sort of we do. The
yeah.
Silicon Valley, I don't know, Silicon Valley over, but that was Mike Judge. That was also had a pretty right wing. I wonder where that is now. Is Silicon Valley still on? Let me see. Did you ever watch it?
I've never watched it, but I've heard a lot of good things.
It's very good. I stopped watching a few seasons ago. Okay, it's still on. Um, Oh no, it concluded in December 2019. Okay, so yeah, I stopped watching it like one or two seasons near the end. But yeah, it's another one too. It's Mike Judge, obviously King of the Hill of Beavis and Butthead. So it's it's an idiocracy. So that's also it also has sort of a right wing or politically neutral tilt. So yeah, I think that this one is more explicit. This is what is more explicit than most. I mean, this is something that Andrew Sullivan could write an essay about. Oh, this is the backlash to wokeness. Are you in touch with pop culture? So I don't know. Like I try to like find what like the pop songs are and try to listen to them. I'm gonna get into TikTok. I need to find out what sort of the culture. Did you see did you see the Pretty Boy Swag, the TikTok? They were the politicians were you did see this thing where there was this meme where it was like these Democratic politicians, like there was one with Beto O'Rourke, where there's like one person dancing, and then like the next person dancing, and there's like this song called "Pretty Boy Swag." Do you know what this is?
I have no idea.
All right, it's too complicated to explain right now, but it's like it's like this
Did
rapper who's just about like banging like chicks with big hips get in my car, but it's like all these Democratic politicians are like dancing along with it in TikTok videos. Beto O'Rourke, Gretchen Whitmer, Tim Ryan. This was during the campaign season, and so I guess the point is I don't know. Like I don't know where sort of the culture is. I'm trying to sort of figure it out. I'm not consuming tons of pop culture like you are when you're young, but I don't know. Like do you have an impression of sort of where things are going?
No, I can't bring myself to watch TikTok. It just seems way too addictive. I guess now, I have more time since since I finished up my PhD. I do have a bit more time, but I just know, like, I've heard so many stories. Like, I've heard this story from more than one person now where they say I'll open TikTok and I look outside and it's like, it's sunlight, and then I open TikTok and I look up again and it's completely dark. Like, I've heard that story and it's like it's very easy to lose your life in 15-second videos. And I that's probably what would happen to me.
Okay,
Like, I would
what
need to have like some kind of self-binding mechanism to, like, you can
put a
watch like,
put an
20
alarm
minutes of
on your
TikTok.
yeah. What I thought of doing is just like doing it as an experiment, like just spending an hour on TikTok and then like writing about it, like writing a post about it. Just see like where the algorithm like it's gonna find my deepest desires and it's all gonna where it's gonna take me.
Dude,
That
didn't
I think would be a lot of fun.
that post on Common Sense, Barry Weiss's Substack, about how, the idea that TikTok is digital fentanyl. I think that sounds right to me, because even people I know who ordinarily have good self control, conscientiousness, like, even they like have to structure their day to avoid TikTok because they
Really?
have it and get sucked into it.
So
And for some people, like, they know how to what, like, weaponize it or utilize it to their advantage. Like, I know people who have, like, they've built like very large TikTok followings, but but that's because they're sort of like turning their addiction into like a profitable enterprise, which is like, I guess that's an option, but I don't know. It's
yeah,
TikTok is too weird for me.
I I've been on it like a little bit. Like no, I never got sucked in. It was just like
Okay.
I saw a pretty girl, and then I would like go to it, and then it would give me another pretty girl, and I'm like, okay, I like looking at girls, and that's like it's told me that,
Okay.
and I don't know, like maybe I like what do people get addicted to? Like that's to me what I would think I would get addicted to, but there's that everywhere. I don't need TikTok for that. So like, what are people getting addicted to?
What's scary though is that, like, I've seen stories of like Gen Z who use TikTok instead of Google search, where, like, oh, they want to know the population of Sicily. Instead of just Googling what's the population of Sicily, they'll go to TikTok and search what's the population of Sicily, and some like TikTok influencer who's like an expert on European geography and
Uh-huh.
demographics, like
Well, that sounds
they'd rather watch a 10-second video of an influencer saying, the population of Sicily is. They'd rather watch a video of someone telling them rather than just like skimming a Wikipedia page.
hmm,
That's mind blowing to me, and that might
interesting.
be like one of the sharpest divides between millennials and Gen Z. Is
So
like,
let me see what I get. I'll
I'd
put
much
in
rather skim a Wikipedia page.
Biden's Biden's mother's name. Let me see what I get when I do this for TikTok.
Oh my god.
Something I would Google. President Biden speaks about Marjorie Taylor Greene. What is Biden's mother's name? Look, there's just a black screen that says, "What is Biden's mother's name?"
Okay, so what happens if you click it?
I get hip hop. I get
Oh
hip hop
my
with a black
god.
screen. All right,
All right. Nice.
all right. Well, it didn't answer my question, but somehow, what the?
All right. There we go.
All right.
So
We're old. We're
that's what
old
the kids
now. We've
are.
got to figure out how this two
I'd
things.
rather be old and like have my attention span, or what remains of it, right? Like, I think millennials, our attention span is like pretty fried, but Gen Z is just like, they are so, I think the Portia character was, to me at least, a fairly accurate an honest representation of Gen Z. Maybe more so Gen Z women, but just like super anxious, super self conscious, like addicted to their phone.
Yeah.
Just like unsure what they want. So she, in a way, she's also sort of that another version of like, the hyper neurotic woman, young woman of like, worried about herself, more so worried about herself than the world. I think there's like a gradual shift, right? Where like, when you're a young neurotic woman, it's like self consciousness, and then you sort of age out of it, and then become Harper, where it's like suddenly you become freaked out about the political situation in the world, and that's what consumes your time. Once you're married,
Mm.
once you find someone settled down, then you need to direct that anxiety towards the world instead of towards yourself. Um, but yeah. Anyway, man, let's we should wrap this up, and we'll do the next three soon.
Okay, we'll see you next time, Rob.
All right.